Yo, the kids official sliding on the instrumental. Nordic combos, twist your mental like forbidden.
Peace to the public and power to the people.
It's been a whole week. We've had a whole week. Made it back here safely. To the space where the vulnerable are powerful. Talk on it. In the most gangster community. Yes, sir. Welcome to All the Way Live.
Absolutely welcome everybody to the All the Way Live show. It's another episode with your boy Zwem. We got my brother Miles. We got our producer Hassan on the ones and twos in the back. We say this is the place where impact meets art, where information meets
Education.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? Elevation.
Come on now.
Creation.
Come on.
And carefully curated content for your cranium.
Every week, you know, we love to give our time towards researching information, find out what's happening in current news, find out people who are doing impactful work around the world, man, and we give you that information. We do it because we care, we do it because it's fun for us, and we do it because we also understand that people are going through it though.
Yes, sir. And we do it from the UK. Shout out our producer Hassan. We do it from South Africa. You know what I'm saying? Johannesburg is always in the building whenever my brother is in the building. In this building that we're doing it from right now is in Chicago. This podcast is recorded on stolen land. This land was cared for by the Potawatomi people, the Council of the Three Fires, Indigenous First Nations people, right? The city was founded by a Black Haitian man and his First Nations wife. So we got to give it up to that history. We got to lift up love for Black and Indigenous people the world over. We got to lift up love for all of our people out there the world over. And with that acknowledgement of that history, with that acknowledgement of the city that I care for and that my brother cares for, that's how you know that the intro is over. Let's get into the show.
Yeah, I get that, but is we live though? Is we like all the way live though? You heard?
Another week, bro. Another week to be back here. We love to tell people about all the good work that other people are doing, and that's because we spend a lot of our times. A lot of our time is giving our time to people. You're a community organizer. I consider myself an activist. So does our producer. We're constantly doing things in our neighborhoods, bro. What have you been up to this week, and how you doing?
I'm doing good, G. I'm doing good. Way back in the day, we used to start this podcast with that kind of check-in, that interaction. I've missed that. So I'm glad to be able to kind of bring that back, center that. Cool. It's been an interesting time. I feel like people are slowly realizing that if you want it done in 2022, it kind of has to happen right now. We're getting to the end of the year. People are trying to wrap things up. And so for me, that's actually meant a lot of really cool conversations, talking about where things are with some of the work in the community. I got to go to a showcase for kind of the culmination of one program's whole year of projects. They reupholstered chairs as a healing process. So basically tearing down an old fancy chair, talking about the things in their life that they want to tear away or move away from. They write on the chair the kind of the bare bones of it, talking about how they want to the things that they want to manifest in their life, and then they reupholster it. They were beautiful. They got to auction them off. And so getting to see that transformation was really huge, and I think emblematic of a lot of what I've gotten to see this year. So I'm feeling good, man, but I think that's also emblematic that showcase end of year is we're moving into a season where I know, you know, it gets tough for people. It's definitely cold in Chicago, so I'm aware of that, knowing that's coming. I know that's been an adjustment for you.
Hey, man.
How are you doing?
Listen, I'm cold. I'm cold right now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very cold. Chicago winter does not, it's not for the faint of heart. It gets really cold out here. So that's why when, you know, you start pointing out that we're moving to a time where a lot of people, it's festive for a lot of people, but it's also traumatic and triggering for a lot of other people, you know. Some holidays, especially when families involved, there's a lot of people that are existing without families and are forced to have to go deal with, you know, this season where everyone's celebrating kind of on their own. So Definitely going through a bit of. I'm trying to find all the ways I can stay warm. So it's a lot of heaters happening around, that type of thing. But definitely very reflective of the work we've been doing this year. It's been a very positive and productive year of helping people. I'm excited by what we've accomplished. I'm excited by what we're gonna do next, and want to just keep spreading the love, man.
No doubt.
Keep spreading the love.
No doubt. Shout out to Tina's Legacy, by the way. That's the organization I was talking about. Got to spread the love to them because that work was amazing. And yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you. You wouldn't be here otherwise than family, right? So because I am the family that brought you to this cold and unforgiving tundra,
Yeah.
I just want to say,
Is Chicago tundra?
it is, man. And it ain't even there yet. It ain't even there yet. We're just moving into it. We just had daylight savings time pass. You know what I'm saying? Just shifted our clocks. What was it? Forward.
It was an hour. It was an hour forward.
So, which means to me now, as I come out of work, I got very little time before it's dark. Sometimes when I'm heading into work, it's dark, and that that definitely affects me. I'm a holiday festive person. I love the holidays. I love this time of year. But I'll be lying if I didn't say I don't miss the extra sun that we get during the summer. That I don't miss the opportunities to be outside. Yeah, man. So I'm anxious a little bit knowing that that's coming along, and I know that affects different people in different ways.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to take this particular impact spotlight to kind of just go over what seasonal affective disorder is. What they call seasonal depression is another real thing too. An interesting stat that I found was that when daylight savings happens, there's actually a spike in cardiac deaths.
Mm. Dang.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It actually goes up by a measurable amount, and that's one of those causation correlation arguments you can make, but still, it is noteworthy that the change in time can have health effects to it, and what bigger health effect than the effect on your brain.
No doubt, no doubt. So I think, yeah, as you were alluding to, that change in times around daylight savings, it messes up your internal rhythms. So seasonal affective disorder, it's kind of this idea that shift, right, causes disruption in people's internal clock, messes with your serotonin levels, which is kind of contributes to your mood. It messes with your melatonin levels, which is your ability to kind of sleep, get good and restful sleep. It often means that people end up having low levels of vitamin D, which I don't know if that really, I'm not sure if that affects your mood, but it certainly is no bueno. You definitely need to have your vitamin D levels in the correct spot. So, yeah, man, it's real. And I think, seasonal affective disorder, it what's the word I'm looking for? Acronyms down to SAD.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost,
that's too on the nose. I don't like that.
And it feels
I don't
a little
like that.
bit.
You guys could have rearranged those acronyms.
It makes it's too, I like what you said, it's on the nose. It almost makes it easy to dismiss in that way, but it's real, man. It can lead people to having social withdrawal. It can make it difficult to, pay attention at school or work. A lot of times people turn to, different substances or medications trying to get that good sleep. So it can create a cycle that's really rough for people during these times,
Hey man, I remember last year when I was in Exeter, spending my Christmas over there doing my master's program. It's one of those times where I was away from my family at the particular time. Pretty much stayed on campus, pushing work to get through it. The deadlines were quite heavy at the time. And you do definitely have that feeling where it's just like seeing all these people get with their families and whatnot. And what helped me is, as a person who can be very comfortable in my own space, is making that extra effort of like reaching out to people and being like, yo, what are you guys doing? And pushing yourself to be around people at that time a little bit. I've always come back from pushing myself in that way with a rewarding experience. Rarely am I like, oh man, I should have just stayed at home. It's always with an open experience, like, hey, you never know what might happen. And things do happen when you open the world to yourself like that.
Oh yeah, I feel you, man. Holiday magic is a real thing.
Holiday magic. I'm trying to spend some holiday magic.
I feel holiday cheer.
I'm trying to spend some holiday
cheer meister. I feel you. I feel you. But no, a trend that I've been seeing a lot that I think is really fly is like the whole Friendsgiving thing, right?
Yeah.
Like taking Thanksgiving and making it our own, deciding like, yo, it doesn't have to be about biological family, it can be about chosen family for those of us that are in that space. Really excited to be spending Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving with you this year, you know what I'm saying?
Hell yeah.
Shout out to my little brother Evan coming up. That's gonna be fire. That's gonna be a great time. So yeah, man, I appreciate what you said, you know, about reaching out on this show. You know, we don't get too deep into these topics without giving you some actionable items that you can do. I like how you set up our little situation here. I saw you kind of cleaning us up, getting us correct. I like the candles.
Come
you know
on,
what I'm saying?
man. You know we keep it real. We keep it real sensual.
We keep it real classy. You know what I'm saying?
Not-
We saying
not
vibes.
sensual.
We saying vibes. You know, yeah. To everybody their own synonyms. But yo, and shout out to our producer, man, pulling up some fly accompaniments to this conversation. You know what I'm saying? Helping the people get informed. But also wanted to hit y'all with some other things that you can do to kind of combat this. So there's this thing called light therapy. They make these special boxes, light boxes, happy lights, right? Do your research, make sure, you know, because I'm sure it's a lot of bogus ones. I'm sure it's a lot of regular old bulbs like we got up here
In a box.
that they're selling as light boxes, but get you a real one. A real one can kind of not recreate the effects of the sun, but provide you kind of with that something that can be the next best thing to get you through the winter months, and it's shown to actually have a positive effect on people's mood. And so that's one way that you can get combat this. Another way, counseling, therapy, talk to somebody. You know what I'm saying? And at whatever level of formality that you're comfortable with, find somebody to talk to. Exercise regularly. Sway, remember one of these so I can see what you get when you do it. Come on. Yeah.
We getting brolic on them.
Yeah. Yeah. And then try to make your environment sunnier and brighter. Know that that you're going to be facing some months with less sunlight, so get it in when you can. Try and spend some time outside. Open up the windows. Think about the time that you're spending in spaces without windows. Get right, man. Take care of yourself. You know what I'm saying? And encourage the people around you to do the same. Look out for your peoples. You know what I'm saying? If you see anybody else starting to withdraw, you can extend their hand, man, and ask them like we just did. How we started this segment. Check in with them.
Yeah.
How you doing? You know?
For sure. And if you like living life on the extreme side of things, it's always cool to be able to take winter as a particular extra thing to push through to get you, say, going to the gym, whatever the case is. Because a lot of people that actually listen to this are folks that, reach out about like, yo, how do I get healthy?
Yeah.
What am I doing to get healthy? All that type of thing. So it's always a good, there's always a nice challenge to face. It's kind of just like exposing yourself to uncomfortability, and then it's always a cool payoff. So I tend to treat these times as like a boot camp of sorts, walking to the gym instead of taking the bus or whatever the case is, exposing yourself to that element, just forcing yourself to do things you don't feel like doing. I got too comfortable.
Yo,
I got too comfortable. I'm playing.
Too.
But like, yeah, you just gotta force yourself to do shit you don't feel like doing, And that's, I use winter as that time.
Yeah, that's definitely your bag. I see you in a lot of ways taking challenges as opportunities. I think you have an interesting relationship with being uncomfortable, and I've seen it allow you to flourish in a lot of ways. And I think that that somebody else is gonna hear that, and that's gonna resonate with them too. So I appreciate that perspective.
Of course, man. Of course.
Me, I'll be bundled up. Burrito, baby. Burritos like a mother.
And that's fine too. There's that healthy balance. It's not just about like, there's nothing wrong with that, And I think that's a bit of it is that we guilt ourselves a lot into being like, man, I'm not doing this. But like, the truth of it is, you don't need very much physical exercise to stay healthy. The threshold is like 10 minutes a day type thing. And also just minding what you eat is a huge contributor to your longevity. So if you're minding what you're eating and still enjoying yourself in a comfortable manner, then you'll be straight. Don't guilt yourself. Be cool,
Well said. Be cool.
Be cool.
But not too cold.
Listen, man, we're giving these people a lot. We are always sharing the work that we're doing on our Mandula Foundation page. We're about to run up the numbers again. I'm feeling like, how many people we fed this year. These numbers are about to come out. I'm interested to see what that looks like. I think we might put up a scat.
Hey, man.
Think we might put up a scat.
Hey, man, it's a blessing to be able to serve. We're going to definitely hit y'all with that info about where to get them turkeys, them hams, whatever you need for your Thanksgiving too, man. The impact don't stop. That's how we do.
Yeah, man. Who knows what we might give away? So people in Chicago, we put out a message to say if you are helping kids in Chicago, if you are helping youth in Chicago, if you run a youth program in this city, and you want some food to come to you,
Hit us up, man.
hit us up.
Yep.
We got about a truckloads. Producer, take us up.
Hey, bro. Hey, G. So, you want to touch gloves? What's good?
Oh yeah, hey, good fight. Good fight. Have a good fight.
Yo, listen, this podcast is all about open conversations. It's all about making sense of the world around us, different perspectives. And this week for Stumbled Upon, I think Zoe and I have maybe not stumbled upon. I feel like we've had many conversations in and around this before. I had a great conversation about it off mic, and we figured out kind of a place where our perspectives differ would be a great conversation to have for Stumbled Upon. So we're gonna walk into it with a conversation about blackness. Yeah, guess what? Surprise. Here we are again. But nah, this is good. It's good. It's gonna be good. So
It doesn't have to just be about blackness.
It doesn't.
It really doesn't.
It doesn't.
And the conversation that we had was just, what if you're doing the work, what responsibility do you have to show it? If you're helping people, if you're being altruistic, if you're active in finding solutions for your community, do you have to share it?
do you have to share it, or do you have to do anything at all? Do you have an obligation to do anything?
Yes,
You say yes.
all of us do.
Do you have more of an obligation to do something if you have a certain status in society?
If you're asking me, I think absolutely it's the human obligation to help your fellow man. That is my stance on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it doesn't increase with your amount of influence. Your responsibility doesn't increase with your amount of influence.
So the argument for us really kicked off when we were saying that you have a lot of people that are doing work that we don't know about, right? But we can criticize them from the outside and say people like, an example we used was Tyler Perry. Does Tyler Perry, you can say, oh, Tyler Perry doesn't do anything for his community, but we don't know that because there's a lot of work that is being done in the background that might not be publicized.
Yeah.
Jay-Z was the same way too. We didn't know a lot of the stuff he was doing for a long time. I think Kendrick is the exact same way, where we don't see it, but apparently gave out like $13 million to schools in California, especially their music programs, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, do you have a responsibility if you are doing that sort of thing to let the world know, like, yo, I'm doing this? You know, I guess that's the question.
I'll give a little pushback and say I don't know if that's really that's not the question that I'm most interested in.
What are you most interested in?
I'm most interested in the idea of like, because everybody you named is famous, right? And I think, one of the reasons I'm not as interested in the question of like, is that one is like, those are all things that even I can't do. I can't give away $13 million, right? So clearly, or what I'm trying to get at is it enough? Like, what can I do? I can go to a food pantry. I can volunteer on the weekends, stuff like that. Is that enough? Is it enough if somebody with millions of dollars in celebrity status does that, or do they have to do something more proportional, like donate millions of dollars?
Yeah, so that comes down to what is required to consider as help. And I think if we start drawing particular lines and saying people have to do a certain amount because of what they have, then we'd be overlooking the vast majority of people that have enough to help at the entry level, but don't proportion to what they can do. So there's very little that I think has to happen for all of us to be in a place where we're helping. For instance, giving your time, exposing yourself to information, supporting somebody financially. A lot of people they don't participate in that way. And if you are looking at it from a proportion perspective, they have, you could say, the same amount that somebody else with more resources has in comparison.
That they have given or they haven't?
Because it would take like what, $2, $5 a month to be able to give to somebody, and that's helping. That $5 can change a lot, right? $5 compared to what people earn is probably the same thing as $4 million to a billion, or whatever the case is.
But help me understand what the main point you're trying to make is. Because are you trying to say that because a lot of people that are middle America don't give, then people at higher, even more levels of influence don't have to give either because it's hypocritical?
It's not that they don't have to give, but when you say that they have to give a certain amount, I'm saying that's hypocritical.
Well, okay, go ahead.
Because $4 million, $4 million, right, is a decent amount. That's a decent amount. But if somebody gives that away that has, to say, net worth of $2 billion or whatever the case is, many would look at that and say, is that enough? And that's what I don't like. I don't want people to draw a line and say, you have to give this amount.
Okay. Well, I want to get there. I want to get to the billion conversation.
Okay.
But still, in just the regular conversation of like regular people versus people with a little bit more influence. Not even billionaires, but like, you know, the people that you brought up, right? Like Kendrick. Jay is a billionaire, actually. Not sure if Tyler Perry is one.
I don't think he's there.
That's dope for Tyler Perry, right? But is there, like, without saying comparing a millionaire's 13 billion to a billionaire's 13 billion, is there still an obligation to do something with that wealth, right? If you're amassing wealth, if you're a millionaire, multi-millionaire, do you have an obligation to use that wealth to give back in some way? Or do you have, because I'm not trying to say let's put a number on it, but I'm trying to say, does your responsibility to give grow with how much you have?
Yeah, I mean, ideally that's what happens, right? Ideally, everyone's responsibility to give compounds with the amount of resources that they get to. I think it's ironic because the more you give, the more you get. So it would make so much more sense to me that anyone that has more gives more, because that's how you receive more.
Yeah.
You know, so I would ideally that's how you go about it. But one of the things that the criticism comes into play, especially, is if you look at, for instance, corporations, right? And you look at how much they're giving in proportion to, say, what their revenue is or what the earnings of their top people are. And then it's easy to be able to look at that and say, actually, those people aren't given enough at all. That has to be a whole lot more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's within that I say, sure, I'm sure there's always room to increase how much money is coming from corporations, but to believe that they're intrinsically evil because they're just corporations, or are not giving very little intentionally because they're corporations, is where I think it's like, come on, guys. I think that's a little bit.
But I think it's very interesting that you brought that term in. Nobody else, I didn't say evil. Nobody said anything about it.
Am I projecting? Is that what you told me? No, that can't be. That can't be.
But I like where you're kind of going with it. So let's go with that kind of route of like transparency, right? Of like the idea of how much people are giving. Because I think in corporations, that's where a lot of it gets lost, is because there's always plausible deniability. Like, nope, we're doing the best we can. Sorry, the books, look at the books. See, can't do it. But I think where the conversation and maybe some of the confusion that we had earlier in terms of, and where blackness comes into this conversation, well, maybe not yet, but like, is the difference between, do you have a responsibility to talk about how much you're giving? Maybe not. But do you have a responsibility to represent the issues that you care about, if you care about any issues? I think those can be two different things, right? I can be a Kendrick who speaks is very vocal about, we know Kendrick stands on the police, we know Kendrick stands on the mass incarceration, right? We don't necessarily know what he's doing philanthropically behind the scenes. So I think there's a separation between is there a requirement to be vocal about the issues that your community maybe faces? And is there a responsibility to be vocal about what you're actually doing behind that? Do you believe that people have either of those responsibilities, especially public figures?
I mean, look, you the person that I know that does the most amount of work, and like one could say you're quite shy about publicizing how much of that work you do. So, what's your relationship with how much people should tell about the work that they're doing, considering that you do a lot that a lot of people don't know about how much you do?
Yeah, I want to answer that, but you did answer my question with a question.
Come on. But I mean, quite frankly, personally, and I can only speak about like my approach to things, right? And the part of the solution that I would like to contribute towards the grander movement for all of us, for everyone to be on this. When I say everyone, I literally mean the world. Like I'm one of those people that believes we can change the world. And what that looks like is being in a place where we're net positive in how much we're giving and helping to each other. Focusing issues specifically on how, or at least society focusing on how to help the people that are at the bottom. Decisions that are made financially, politically, are all a lot of them are geared towards looking directly at the bottom and seeing how we can push that up. That's the type of thing that I believe in. And how I see that coming about is my work personally. Mm-hmm. I try and share that as much as I can so that somebody else can potentially see that, add to it, be inspired by it, see what it looks like for young Black men who want to change the world. What does that look like? And put that out there so that more people can think it's possible.
So you feel it's important for you to do that?
Personally, yeah.
But you don't. Is that a no comment on whether anybody else or whether other people? Because that's kind of the conversation, right? Do other public figures have that responsibility?
So it's like there's so many different ways to solve this thing. To me, it's like a puzzle. It's like you can't solve the whole problem, but you can solve your portion of it. And another way that somebody tries to do it will solve their portion of it. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of room for people to not have to talk about what it is that they're doing. That's still very impactful, influential, and helping people. So no, it's not. I don't mandate it, Mm-hmm. But how do you feel about it? Like off of that question,
am I personal or forever?
Because you are a public figure. You see, and that's my problem.
It's funny because when you say that, I would be like literally a public figure. Like I'll be out in public. Not a Twitter public figure.
No.
That's the more common use of the term nowadays, right? Like I'm not a blue check public figure. I'm a bus pass.
Blue checks.
I'm a bus pass public figure.
No, but like you are, but like regardless of how the word can be interpreted, the literal definition of it is you are a public figure. You're somebody who's in the public, mm-hmm. a figurehead that people look to for resources, mm-hmm. And are validated through your affiliations and your part of the Illuminati. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, I was with you. That's the last word. I like that on a signing fight last night.
Come on, chill. Oof. Come on, chill.
But I would say that I grapple with my responsibility to how much of myself to give and how much of that to show every day.
Why?
Because I've seen a lot of people fall very quick, go from people like to celebrate good stuff, right? Because there's so much trash happening in the world, right? And I've seen a lot of people who have been at the helm of that good stuff start to get the recognition, and very quickly the good stuff is about the recognition and not about the good stuff. I've seen it happen so many times that the way I'm moving right now is to be very cautious and to say, I'm trying to make very few decisions without considering, is the work first or is what I want first? And I first is the attention on me first. And that has meant for me very slowly, but having to look and go, I'm uncomfortable being this public facing show, sorry. But like, and and move forward in that. But I think a lot of people, there's so many people who do move in the spaces that I move or appear to that are very visible on social media, and that's a channel that, as of right now, I haven't figured out how to navigate that safely, and with safely meaning for the communities that I represent and the people that look up to me in that space that has so much going on.
I mean, like, I think if you're doing the work, you don't have to worry about how it comes off. You know, I think that's concern for the insecure, especially if you're actually are doing the actual work. You know, and I feel that because for the longest time I took a couple of years hiatus off of all social media because I didn't want to associate myself with my past profession. You know, but I think and part of me kind of did feel like a fake, being like, am I value, what do they call it? Am I value? It's not value projecting. It's virtue signaling. You know, am I virtue signaling? But like, you got to let that go if that's not actually what you're doing. You know, so I have to throw that away. I don't worry about that. I don't worry if I'm coming off as I'm virtual signaling because I know I'm not.
Yeah.
And I know that people are actually getting help. So forget them. Now I'm looking at letting everybody else know, yo, listen, this is the work that's being done. What else are we talking about right now? Like,
and I really appreciate the way that you've been able to navigate that. Like, your social media is dope. Everybody go follow Zoe Double G. You know what I'm saying? And it really does reflect the work that you do in a very positive light and in a way that I think is transparent and I think is artistic and represents, you know, your creative self. As somebody who doesn't, my last social media post is from 2017. So even on a personal tip, that's not an arena I engage in. I think that contributes to why I'm not so much worried about being seen as virtue signaling, but it's hard for me to incorporate that into my everyday on the ground in these community spaces because I don't think to go to my phone on a regular space. So when somebody's going through something in the space, you know, or when somebody is sharing something, being vulnerable because we've created a safe space, or even at the pantry, right? I'm very careful about taking pictures because maybe not everybody wants to be in the background of a picture at a food pantry, right? You know, so I'm just always conscious of those things and always just conscious of being present. So much of the work I do requires being so present that it's more about how do I incorporate that in a way that doesn't require a shift in focus that jeopardizes the work or the space. And it's less about how it'll be received in that social media space, because I'm not worried. Like, I know that's toxic. That's why I'm not there now. I know it's going to be all sorts of stuff that's detrimental. Putting it out there would only be for the people that see a resource and get connected to it, or see something, how a way that they can get involved and get inspired.
Yeah, but that's the beautiful thing about the type of work that we do is that, like, it's not about you. You know, it really isn't about you.
Word.
And so you kind of have to put those feelings to the side a bit.
So, I'm on my bad.
No, go on.
But if it's not about you, right, and this is where the blackness did come into the conversation, because when there's a community that has been oppressed, when there's a community that has been misrepresented, the people that rise from that and have an opportunity to represent, to you know, grow out of those spaces, historically have had a different responsibility, right? Shout out to the Muhammad Ali's of the world, right? The Sam Cooks of the world, right? People that were great in their skill or talent, singing, athletics, you know, Cornel West, public figure, intellectual, but also felt called to care for their people through their public presence, because it's not about them. It's so much bigger than that. And I think part of this conversation was, I think it's much easier to say general celebrities don't have no responsibility for anybody. We shouldn't be lifting them up as heroes in a lot of cases anyway. But when we come back to those particular communities, I think there's a question of, do those people have a different responsibility to give? Maybe not even financially, monetarily, but to have a presence that betters that community, or is that too much responsibility?
As long as you're not pocket checking somebody, you know, that's where I don't believe in where you go, this person earns this amount of money, so he's not giving enough. You never know someone's financial situation.
unless they're a billionaire.
But even then, you don't know their financial situation, even if they're a billionaire. Look at Kanye. He had, what was it, $1.6 billion eviscerated in 2 days. That's like,
Good point.
what does that mean? Was that in his pocket? Where did he have that? Did they run into a bank? Did the bank take it? No, it wasn't. It was just held up in equity. And that's the majority of those. When you hit that echelon, most of that money is just, Amazon lost, and this is a little bit of sneak peeking into our next conversation, Amazon lost $1 trillion in value. Bro, that is mind-boggling. In a matter of months, more money was lost in one company than a company has ever been worth ever. You know what I mean?
Dang, say that again.
What money was lost in one company than any company has been worth ever. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, you never know what the financial situations is. Elon Musk was worth $256 billion. He had to borrow money to buy Twitter at $44 billion. So when we look at billionaires, we go, however much you give is not enough because you have more. I think that's ridiculous. It doesn't even have to start at that level. You can bring it down a bit more. And it's just like, there's a lot to it.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. And I think whatever you give is not enough because you have more is a very easy sentiment to dismiss, I think. But I think when you look at it from a more structural analysis and go, the system that allowed you to become a billionaire, whatever, like a billion is a lot of, we might not know the details of somebody who's a billionaire's financial situation, but they are wealthy.
Can I give you a great anecdote? If you were to count to 1 million, it would take you 11 minutes. If you count to 1 billion, it would take you 11 years.
Okay, I got one. Damn, 11 years. Okay, I got one for you too, okay? Put it in dollars, right? If you make $1 million a year, that's $480 per hour or $4,000 a day, right? If you make $1 billion a year, that's $480,000 an hour and $3 million per day. I love 1 billion.
I love that.
1 billion.
Yeah.
Right? So Elon Musk, $250 billion, had to borrow money to buy Twitter for $44 billion. Now is valued at $198 billion. So we might not know his plan, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. So we can't even go all the way into the billionaire conversation, I think. But I think what where we were gonna go with it, and maybe where we'll put a bookmark, and y'all can let us know if y'all need this to continue, is I lost it. No, I'm just kidding. Is if you're at a certain point, is the same system that allows people to become billionaires, right? And to even think about doing something like buying Twitter, the same system that has millions of people in poverty. Is that disparity directly connected?
Yeah. So does one person making money mean somebody else is losing?
No. That's not what we're saying.
That's exactly what you're saying.
That's not what I'm saying. Not one person making money means somebody else is losing money.
Okay.
Is it the same system that allows, that stratifies, right? That means that perpetuates inequity, allowing certain people with certain resources and certain access to reach levels of $1 billion, while other people not only never have those resources or those access, but are unable to subsist, are unable to care for themselves on a day-to-day basis. I think that's the same system. Not that every dollar Elon Musk makes takes a dollar out of my Uncle Jerry's pocket, but that the system that makes Elon Musk a billionaire keeps Uncle Jerry from reaching that same.
I agree with that. That's why my contribution to the system, man, is creating institutions and organizations that are driven to make money go in the right direction, and that's to help people, and we want to keep encouraging everybody to find and follow what you're passionate about to help people. I think that
I think a lot of people gonna need some help.
A lot of people gonna need help. A lot of people are gonna need help.
Find out why in this next segment.
Let's get to it. Hey man, You know what we do for current news? We dedicate our time to do research on things that are happening in the world, and we break it down for you guys. This over the last few weeks, Twitter,
Mm.
tens of thousands of people got fired from Twitter, got laid off, and job cuts.
RAH,
Yes.
rest at home.
Is that what you call it? Rest at home?
Sorry.
That's not a technical term. That's not a technical term. We saw the same thing with Twitter. Elon Musk buys Twitter, cuts the staff in half.
Dang.
Katana chop. So there's a lot that's happening right now. FTX, the third largest cryptocurrency market in the world, has just pulled down $36 billion in a matter of a week. There's a lot that's happening. And a lot of people, analysts are pointing towards the words recession. And we hear this word bouncing around, recession. This is recession explained for the homies.
That's what we do, man. We take topics that, I know what they mean for sure, you know what I'm saying? The true clinical definitions, I got them all up here. But, other people might need some definitions, you know what I'm saying? Might need it broken down for them. So I'm going to pass it to my brother Zoe, man. What's a recession and are we in one?
So a recession is defined as a prolonged period of GDP decline, of financial, of a market performance decline. And different countries define it by different time periods. You'll have some people say that it's sustained decline over 3 quarters, over 4 quarters. There's different types of recessions that happen. So recessions within recessions, peaks and valleys between them. They say that at this moment we're potentially experiencing what they call a double-headed recession, which means that we'll go up, go down, go up again, and then go down. And that down is where we're supposed to land. You can have a hard landing or a soft landing. It gets deep, but what it means is that is the economy slowing down?
Whew. Man, that was a roller coaster you just took us on.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
Hold tight.
I'm glad that you got us to the economy slowing down. That was digestible to me.
Yeah.
You was talking about 3 quarters, 4 quarters. I'm like, I got quarters in the glove box. I don't know. I got to do my laundry later.
How many quarters you got?
I don't know. I don't know if I got enough quarters.
That's a recession.
That's a recession.
Oh, man, that's a recession.
We in one for sure. We in one.
We're definitely in one. And not to cut you, the prices of laundromats right now are ridiculous. I cannot believe how expensive it is to wash clothes in the US.
But not just clothes. For everybody out there, Zoe has been traumatized by price tags since this journey began. We have walked through grocery stores, retail shops. This man has been flabbergasted. I'm with him.
The prices are too high, dude.
Too high.
The prices at Chicago is expensive. London is expensive. I can't escape these expensive cities, dude.
Yeah, that's that adversity you keep chasing. You like to be in uncomfortable spaces, man. You like to be in uncomfortable spaces. And when the economy slows down, it gets uncomfortable for a lot of folks. And that, to me, is kind of what a recession means. I love that the real definition, right? Sustained GDP decline. Cool. But to me, to the streets, I think what we know is coming is tight times.
Do you just refer to yourself as the streets?
I'm streets adjacent. Me and the streets know each other. You just called me a public figure. I can't be in the streets. Come on, man. And these people love you. When you undermine me, they rock with you like that. Come on, don't do that to me, dog.
You want to be the voice of the streets so bad.
Dirk took that already, but I do need to lock in with Dirk, see what they're doing around here. Chicago Impact, man, it's a real thing we're doing. But check this out, right? Oh man, you threw me all the way off. I guess uncomfortable people.
Recession. People are experiencing recessions.
Yes. And by erroneously referring to myself as the streets, what I was trying to say is that this means this has very real impacts for people on the ground, and we often talk about it in primetime finance talk. You know what I mean? But for real people, it means that things get expensive, right? For everybody, right? For people and corporations, everything becomes more expensive. Materials become more expensive. Corporations start producing less. They need to cut costs. First place they look to cut costs a lot of the time is cutting hours for workers, cutting the number of people that they have on their workload. So a lot of people lose their jobs at these times. as the price of things continues to increase. So it's hard out here, man. It's hard out here. And as we might be around the edges of one, I wanted to come to the dude I know that knows the most about finance and say, Sway, what do we do, man?
Well, running high.
Okay.
And potentially loot.
No, man.
I'm kidding. Please, no. please don't.
Don't loot. Please don't loot. Don't loot us.
Don't loot us. Please.
Yeah, for sure. That's merch coming soon. Don't loot us t-shirts.
Yo, producer, we gotta get those "Don't Loot Us" t-shirts, please.
Yes, sir.
So I think a particular separation I wanted to make there a little bit is that the rising of prices and recessions definitely do have correlations together, but are two different. They're calculated by two different things. So the rising of prices would be more inflation, an inflation-related thing, and then GDP and economic output is what leads to a recession. Because you can't have times of prosperity and high inflation at the same time.
My bad. I'm getting my causes and my symptoms. I'm scared. I'm anxious. I'm mixing them up. But I appreciate you bringing it back.
But the reason why that's important to bring up, and I'm so glad you did, is because we're having both of those things happen at the same time, and the inflation rate is what's causing this current recession, which is that in 30 months, here comes numbers, right? In 30 months, $30 trillion was printed. $70 trillion was printed in 30 months.
Who would they give to?
Well, a lot of it went to buying lobsters and crabs.
Hey.
Lobster legs and crab legs. A lot of that went into that. $7 trillion, I wanted to make sure. $7 trillion was printed in 30 months, right? That amount of cash just flooded into the market. So you had an unprecedented printing of capital that has happened over the COVID period. It is borderlining criminality from the government's, or at least irresponsibility from the government's hand, because what we've been seeing now is that the market's imploding quite heavily, and we're planning to, at least people are now saying, and planning for about 2-3 years of this type of climate.
That's another thing about recessions, man. A lot of times it seems like it'd be some criminality going on. With 2008, a recession that some folks that might be listening to the show might remember, there was some criminality going on. There was some banks, some housing lending practices that were unscrupulous. You know, boom, market crash affects millions of people, man. But now we're seeing governments doing not the same thing, but a mismanagement of funds that could potentially have a major impact on a lot of people. That's messed up, G.
Yeah, I mean, when COVID started, really what you ended up seeing is that governments really ran to the taps of money and just let it rip, right? And printed out more money within that 30-month period than money has ever been printed out ever in the history of American commerce.
Wait a minute. Run back request. Number 2. Say that again.
In 30 months, and quote me on this and repeat me on this, in 30 months, over the period of COVID, more money was printed in the U.S. than there's ever been money in the U.S.'s economy. So they printed more money.
Who did they give it to? It ain't here.
It's not here. It's not here.
No money under the hat.
These little cats. No, but they part of it was being able to give people out these.
They did give it to us. Should have bought that TV.
You got the money, dog. Where's the 7 trillion? Where's the 7 trillion? So that's what happened, right? They printed out all of this cash, and then what you ended up seeing is that markets just swallowed that money up. You're seeing Netflix paying Netflix was paying the Game of Thrones guys these hundreds of $1 million deals. These startup companies are just expanding aggressively. And that's kind of what's happening, is that we've had this huge spur of printing, and it's now starting to adjust itself on the decline down. And because of how high up we are, the decline is going to be quite steep.
Oof.
Yeah.
Man. What do we do?
don't loot us definitely is the conclusion. But I mean, what you do? Let me
Because it's tough, right? Because this is a time when one of the major things that happens is people lose jobs at a time when, it's income is the most precious. So how do you combat that?
especially on the job thing. Before we even get so technical, bro, we have friends that have lost their jobs
Word.
as part of this.
Yep.
It's something that's it's not a tagline. This is something that's real, And I've spoken to some of my friends who work at Meta or friends of mine that have gotten laid off, and there really is a feeling of betrayal in how things have been handled. The guys in Twitter are saying the same thing too. Google, which has been known for the longest time to just have the most lax working environment and rules. You make all the money you want. You get to chill however you want. You come here. You can sleep here if you want. Now they're saying, guys, you guys got to come to the office now. You guys got to come into the office now. And it's the same thing with Twitter. They're saying, guys, bring it in. If you don't want to work from home, hit the window. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get out of here. And that's spreading across. So when you're seeing these job cuts like that, it's actually very reflective of what's happening in the economy, which is that it's going to get tough for a while. And so when you see these big companies doing that, it should be a sign to be like, it's happening.
Yeah. Well, it's happening. What that means to me is tightening up my pockets. You talked about Netflix. We're going to take another look at them subscriptions.
Oh,
We're going to take another look at car insurance. We're not going to not have car insurance, but we certainly going to shop around.
Mhm.
All right? We're going to take a look at whatever else we are being charged monthly for. Amazon looking at you. We're going to get our Christmas shopping done in the next 2 weeks, and then I'm off the prime.
Off
You
Prime.
feel me? We gotta take a look at that. Also, it's side hustle time, baby. You know what I'm saying? If there's not a lot of jobs out there, this is the time to focus on your skills, build yourself up, figure out ways that you can make bread for yourself. Because this too shall pass. And if there's not opportunities out there, in the street, then make sure that you are ready to hit the street with something, and work on you, man. That's the best advice I got for right now.
Definitely. And personally, at least from a business perspective, it's definitely changing the way that I'm looking at my business's plans,
Mm.
what needs to happen. I understand that fundraising right now is going to be extremely difficult for startups. So on one side, it's understanding that we're not going to rely on having cash fall out the sky for us. We're going to actually have to acquire and make a lot of capital, and also be very we're gonna have to show profitability. So instead of showing growth, showing profitability, and then also being as lean as we can be, and then realizing that we have to hold on to more money for longer periods of time as opposed to spending out, knowing that you can raise cash from the markets. So business-wise, taking that precaution.
Well, I would say I personally am glad to have a close friend who not only knows a lot about finance, was able to break this down, but who also employs people. This is really fortuitous for me right now. You know what I'm saying? And I say that to say, get y'all on, but use y'all networks, man. You know what I'm saying? Reach out to who you gotta reach out to each other, see what your people's got going on, because every opportunity to break bread together and to make bread together is a good one. So
For sure. And if y'all got some bread for us to make, let us know.
for sure. But what might be worth some bread to them?
Tell me.
You know what they like a lot.
Oh man, they like when we play music. They like when we talk about music.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Another one. I think our last music review, we talked about if we had a chart, a record on the wall of weeks reviews without anything whack. It would be really interesting to see how long that chart stays up. I think this week is a continuation of that. For me, personally, I dug what we heard this week. Nas, King's Disease 3, Rap and Review. What did you think, man?
And what I wanted to get to too is that where did you hear this music that we're reviewing right now?
I heard it. I've heard the first half of the album running around on my Friday. Just part of, the drive to work, in between some meetings, listening to Nas. And then I had a chance to kind of run through the whole thing yesterday. You know what I'm saying? Took a nice long shower, detangled the hair, you know what I'm saying? Let that Nas run. And I really dug it, man. Nas is an artist that I have an interesting relationship with. I've been a J fan, a whole fan, basically my
It
whole
is
life.
known.
You know what I'm saying?
It
And
is known.
so there's a tension there, but there's also a deep respect there. There are Nas projects that I love. There are Nas projects that are music, and this one is one that I really like a lot. So I was really glad to hear this. Where did you check it out, man?
I checked it out on our show.
Oh,
Our live
snap.
lounge session shows, man.
There you go.
It was I listened to it a bit during the day as well. Cool listen. Not my. It's King's Disease 2 is definitely. I appreciate the last album that came out. That one to me, I couldn't stop listening to. This didn't have necessarily have the same effect on me, I would say, but it's. I'm finding a lot of music that I would look forward to hearing again later. Like I don't have to fully ingest it and like it now, but it's like, oh, this is a cool album. I think at some point when I'm traveling, I'm on a flight or whatever, I'll let that whole album run.
Mm. That's interesting you say that because that is how I felt about King's Disease too. Liked it, week it came out, listened to it. I don't think we reviewed it,
No.
but I did. I was like, this is cool, but I never ran back to it. And the thing about Nas is, you're not gonna really hear Nas out. You gonna put Nas on,
Mm.
right? Or you hanging around some, your people. So you got some cool friends. You know what I'm saying? But it's interesting. I think he's put out actually a lot of work for somebody who's been in the game as long as he has. The King's Disease series through the Magic joint in there, I really like that project.
Hmm.
And so I think there's something for everybody to take from this. Even if this wasn't your favorite of his last few recent offerings, we're people that appreciate hip hop and the growth. What does this run of albums mean to you in terms of hip hop longevity and growth from the greats?
I think one of the things we're doing this justice of is not including Hit Boy along
Boom.
with
Yeah,
Nas.
you right.
Every single time we
Yep.
gotta.
Yep.
So it's a sad day, but Miles, we're revoking your hip hop card.
Oh,
Yeah, now
no.
you're designated to listening to.
That's cool. I'll earn it back. You got it.
You can only listen to K-pop for the next 2 months, okay?
Why can't I can't go R&B?
Nah.
I gotta go all the way to K-pop.
That's hip hop adjacent.
Dang. Hey, K-pop is not
Damn.
right. What isn't hip hop adjacent?
What is not hip hop?
We got you, country. Lil Nas is all up in there. What?
Hey man, everything is hip hop, especially on this show. But you gotta put Hit Boy there. You gotta put Hit Boy there because it's the chemistry of this series. It's a 3-part series, and I think both of them really do. I always appreciate a great rapper producer chemistry. It's so organic to the grassroots of this culture that we both love. So when you see things like Alchemist and Freddie Gibbs, or Madlib and Freddie Gibbs, Alchemist and the BSF boys, and Alchemist and or Derringer and the Derringer and our Griselda boys, those types of relationships have always been present in hip hop. Snoop and Fifth, Guru and Jay. We can do this forever.
Yeah.
So when I see that coming from the greats, I see a continuation of a legacy in hip hop that I really do appreciate. That you can have a series that's like Nas and Hit Boy,
Yeah.
that you can keep running to. So I think it's a cool thing.
That spans generations. That spans that generational gap, right? It's funny listening to this album. I was kind of chuckling to myself, like for years, the criticism of Nas was that Nas picks bad beats, right? And then he got a hold of Hit Boy. It was like, oh, we friends. You gonna stick with me?
You got no but good beats.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Hit Boy's variety on this, his ability to toss it up to Nas, to deliver was amazing. So I hope Nas lets him go. I want to hear Hit Boy collaborate with everybody. You know what I'm saying? Not that I wouldn't want to hear King's Disease 4. I would be here for that. But yeah, just to big up Hit Boy and what he brings to this. I don't have the track list in front of me, but there were throughout the project, right? I remember the flow of listening to it. I was like, all right, first 3 tracks, I'm in. I'm with this. This is gonna be a good album. Started to fade around 4, 5, 6 for me. And I was like, oh, well, maybe it was just those first that are gonna be heat and the rest is gonna be, not the greatest, but it picked back up, not only in the middle, but again towards the end for me. So this album was really good all the way out. sorry to not be able to shout out some of the tracks, but Hit Boy's production on this was impeccable. It was really fun to put together a set around this for the listening session.
One thing I'd say though is that in King's Disease 2, I think Nas's raps got the best of, if it's rapper and beat, the rapper for me shined through the over the beats in that album, I think. And usually when that happens, it's always like a perfect symmetry. I think in King's Disease 3, we're seeing a place where I could see people going to this just for the beats or just the sound of how Hit Boy put it together. And I think that one is the edge over this album, which is why I prefer the first one more. And I just thought about that now as we're going through it.
Well, you got me excited to go back to King's Disease 2, which also came out this year, right?
It did come out this year.
So if we can, give them a little teaser, that year-end review might be crazy.
Year-end review's gonna be wild.
So let us know what y'all been listening to, man. Definitely hit us up so that we can make sure we don't miss nothing crazy for our year-end review. But this project, I think, Nas will be in the conversation for sure. I like there was a line on here, man, where he goes, y'all listen, there's no beef or something like that. Y'all listening to Ether on Tidal. Sometimes I listen to Take Over and I'll text Hope like, this ain't over.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, okay, that's dope. And it made me think the approach is very different, right? From King's Disease 1, 2, 3, the Nas Kanye joint, the Nas Magic joint. Nas has been putting out a lot of work. Jay's last project, I think, is it fair to say 444 has probably gotten a little bit more critical acclaim than these projects?
That's a fact.
Just the one album?
That's a fact.
So I wonder if Hope feels called.
And I think, personally, King's Disease 2 is better than 444.
Oof.
Personally.
Controversial. Personally. Now I'm super hyped to listen to King's Disease 2. I'm going to tell you if you're wrong, too.
I could be. But I tell you what, I enjoyed both of those albums. I've heard one more than the other.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate out of those albums the content that's there, man. I think, Nas and Jay are very intentful with giving game, business game, work game, life game. Nas says something over King's Disease 2 that I'll never forget. He says, double down on what's working. He says, you want to know how to make it through? Look at what you're doing. Double down on the thing that's working, and I've always carried that with me too. When things get tough, it's like, all right, cool, let's lean on the thing that's working most, push out, So and there's a lot more of that similar type of content going through this particular album, which I appreciate. So I can see myself going back there to listen to it on some game, some game shit, just getting game from it.
No doubt. And I think that's what's beautiful about the growth in hip hop, is that we can be 30 and still getting game from hip hop. Like I think that's incredible, man. I was 12 saying, I'm learning from this, and that wasn't the vibe back then in hip hop. I think people slowly started to understand it. But it's cool. I never knew if I expected to be an adult still learning from hip hop. Yeah. So that's super fire. Although it is a very different vibe. Nas and Hov is definitely deep in the married life. Nas is out here.
Hey, you said I'm still popping them young things. Is what he said. He said, I'm still popping them young things.
Nas is out here, man.
I'm popping them young things.
Shout out to Nas, man.
Hey, never mind. Never mind.
So I think I'm at a 3.5, almost a 4, but I think I'm at a 3.5 with this.
I'm at a 3 with it.
I'm at 3.5.
I'm at a 3 with it. 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5.
I don't know if our producer got to hear this. I'm not sure. 3
3
out of 5. 3 out of 5 it is.
3 out of 5 it is, man.
I'm rocking with that, man.
Hey, listen. If you rocked with us for this long, that means, you're part of the family.
No doubt, man. You're part of the family. And if you family, I can't stress enough, man. Check us out. Fridays, live listening sessions. We'll be spinning the records, type jams related to the album that we're gonna review. What is it?
It's up and it's stuck.
There you go. Check us out.
I hate that saying.
I was just gonna get us out of here.
I hate that saying.
Just gonna get us out of here.
I don't know why I said that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. You deserve better. Join us next week.
Yeah, I get that.